here with Mark Munoz, the Rain Training Center. Mark, you have this fight coming up in February, the UFC card in LA.
Yeah.
Give me just an update on how this camp is going so far.
This camp is great. I do have a, UFC 184. I do have a fight lined up February 28th, Staples Center. It's in my backyard finally. It's going good, man. Camp is going great. I have a lot of good training partners here, yeah, man. I'm finally I've switched a lot of things up. My coaches ran an intervention on me, and they're like, hey, you can't train like a madman like all the time. You got to be able to rest and recover. And it caught up to me. My last year was probably the most challenging year I've had as far as health. And I've had 4 injuries last year, but you know what? It's you live and you learn, and I still got a lot of fight in me, and I know I can get to the top of this division.
Now, who are you fighting? Because I know it got switched around.
Yeah, I got switched around. So now I'm fighting this guy named Juan Carnero. He actually was in the UFC, fought in the UFC 3 times, and he just won a tournament. Fought 3 times in one night and won that. So his name is Juan Carnero.
What type of fighter is he?
He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter.
Okay, so is that more better for you because of the wrestling and
Yeah.
getting a side control and just bringing shots?
Yeah, for me it's good. I always like fighting a grappler. But he's a very good mixed martial artist. He's got great striking too, and his jiu-jitsu is great. I mean, I've fought guys like Damian Maia. I've fought guys that have great jiu-jitsu, and I love fighting those guys. I have confidence in my jiu-jitsu. I have confidence in my MMA game, and have confidence in my MMA wrestling. So, so we'll see. And I'm gonna go in there, and I want to make a statement in this fight.
Talk to me about that intervention. Why did they have to come in and tell you to change things up?
So, I've always had an issue with overtraining, and a lot of
This
the
is
guys
since college?
since college.
Yeah?
Yeah, since college. I feel like if I wasn't overtraining, I wasn't training. And I always thought that there's no one that's going to train hard in me. But since I'm getting older, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm getting older, and my body needs more recovery and rest. And the reason why I was having the year I've had last year too is not just because of my training, but I'm a man that wears many hats. I am a fighter. I'm also a father of 4 kids. I'm also a husband, and I own this gym, Rain Training Center. I'm also a motivational speaker. So there's a lot of things that are a lot of moving parts that I've had to juggle, and there's stress that comes along with that. And I've always been a guy that wants to leave a legacy with different people, with whoever I come in contact with, and it was a very challenging thing for me last year because I was having to balance a lot of things, and I was still training hard, and my body started breaking down. So now my coaches came in and said, hey, if you're going to be a fighter, you need to be a fighter. And you can't take on so many things and overextend yourself, and then your body is not efficient, is not in the optimal amount of where you need to be as far as training camp, and that's where I was. I was just it was like a grind every day. I had to get mentally tough, and it wasn't where I was like, okay, I'm excited to go. It was like, okay, I just got to get through it, instead of thriving through it. So that was the intervention that came in, and now I'm taking on this whole new protocol where it's it's heart rate monitoring and making sure I'm getting good recovery at night based upon my heart rate. My heart rate went down to 28 beats per minute.
That's scary.
28 beats per minute, and it's unreal. I'm like, what? Are you serious? He called me one day and he goes, hey, do you know your heart rate went down to 28 beats per minute? And he goes, man, your stroke volume for your heart per beat is unbelievable, because if you have that low of a heart rate at rest and sleep, that means you're very efficient, and you're doing things right finally. So it's just like, man, it's crazy. And I'm totally non-PED, non-GMO. Like, I mean, you talk about like natural. That's who I am, man. Like, I don't take any of that stuff.
And that's been a really hot topic because of what happened with Anderson.
Yeah, man, and you know, I know Anderson. He's a good friend of mine, and you know, I can't see him doing that. But he has a lot of advisors around him, and you know, you know, he needed to come back from an injury like that. I mean,
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are kind of speculating. Like,
Yeah.
well, maybe it was like trace or something because
Yeah.
of the leg. Like, obviously, he needed to do something to get the strength and everything
Yeah.
like that.
for sure. And I don't see Anderson as someone that is a cheater. I mean, Anderson is not a cheater. He wouldn't do that. I know him. But at the same time, you know, it's just like he did it. He needs. I mean, there's a consequence for every decision that you make, whether
Yeah.
be it positive or negative. So I hope the best for him, man. I really do.
No, it brought up a lot of interesting points because there's been a lot of guys that have been busted in a period of time in MMA. But Jason High said a thing where when he was getting into the sport, someone told him that, you know what, there's a lot of guys that abuse in the sport, so be careful.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm starting to being less naive about it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys that are doing some stuff to get the edge, and a lot of guys try to get an edge, you know, in their competition, regardless of any sport. You know, people try to get an edge in football and basketball and wrestling and whatever it is. So, you know, but the thing is, for me, it becomes almost like it goes beyond sport then, you know? Like, I do want to be successful at my sport, but at the same time, I want to have a great testimony for my kids. You know, I want to let them know that I'm all natural. I did it the best way I could, and you know, and you know, I was one of the best fighters in the world doing it. You know, but if it was tainted with, you know, performance enhancing drugs, it's not a good example for whoever you come into contact
Now
with.
imagine that conversation that Anderson has to have with his kids. Imagine
I know,
it's
man. I mean,
a tough one.
it's a tough one. It's a
Yeah.
really tough one.
So at this point now, what do you got to do? Because we're gonna check in with you again. But at this point
Yeah.
now, how's camp gonna go until the fight?
So right now I'm ramping things up. You know, obviously I have 3 weeks left to go in this camp. I had awesome training partners today. I had Bisping, Jay Silva, Rafael Davis, and they were just training rounds on me, and it was good, man. I'm very excited to get into this fight, enthusiastic about it. It's not like, oh man, I gotta go to practice every day. Obviously it's the grind, you know, I'm on the grind, but at the same time I have the right mentality, you know, going into this fight, and very confident going into it. No injuries, thank goodness, you know, no injuries going into this fight, so very confident, man. I definitely want to make a statement.
Well, we're gonna check back with you as you get closer to your fight. Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you.